Could you name any scientific law whatsoever for which you have certain knowledge that there are no exceptions?
No, I couldn't. I mean,
Thank you.
I made a different assertion. I said that Einstein says the laws of nature are not suspended. That's quite different. You chose to attack a position I hadn't actually espoused, and you had said yourself that there is an obedience to law observable. I can quote you. Or
but
you
my point was that was an article of faith. That was not a demonstrated proposition. Einstein knew that, and that's why Einstein was a theist. Einstein believed that God represented a great mind that sustained these laws in that way.
You're completely wrong twice. Einstein was not a theist. Einstein was a theist. Einstein was very explicitly not a theist. He was a deist. He said he was a believer in the God of Spinoza, the God that does not intervene in human affairs, that does not answer prayers, that does not take sides in human quarrels, that does not make judgments on human behavior.
Well, Spinoza was not...
That's as far from theism as it's possible to get, and you should have got this by now, Dinesh. You really should.
Chrstopher, you're a little bit... There's a difference between deism and Spinozism, but I'll come back to that. I want to turn to something else. You asked for how can we reasonably think that God exists? Let me ask you this question. Scientists who begin to look at the universe ask themselves this question: why does the universe have the rules that it does? Why does the universe operate according to the particular dials and parameters it has? What if those parameters were a little different? And the scientists who look at that said, if you change these parameters even an infinitesimal amount, if the gravitational force were slightly different, or the strong nuclear force, or the electroweak force, we would not have this universe, we would not have life, we would not be here having this debate. Now, what is your explanation for how we live in such a fine-tuned universe? It would seem to suggest a fine-tuner or designer. Darwinism is hopeless here because it's not accounting for the universe, only for transitions among life. So what is your rational theory for why we live in a fine-tuned universe?
Right. Well, there's a good reason why no one comes to me for arguments about physics, so I'll have to take, but I'm not ducking the question. Just for your notebooks, ladies and gentlemen, there is a book by Professor Victor Stenger on this subject. Dinesh deals with it also in his book, that makes the bold claim that science actually negates the case for the existence of God.
Well, Stenger says the laws of physics come out of nothing. Do you agree with that?
Further than I would have gone, I'm saying I recommend that you read it. A chasm of tautology yawns at the feet of all those who go in for this argument. Richard Dawkins actually said to me once he thought it was the most interesting argument he'd so far heard or encountered in all the debates we've all had with the faithful, and it is, because there's something extraordinary about it. Of course, also appeals to us, because anything that says to us, you know, you might not have been here, but you are, so that must be something majestic, is obviously appealing to us. It's sometimes known as anthropocentric. Look at the consequences. Look at an example just in the suburb of this argument where we happen to live. A tiny solar system on the very, very edge of the known universe, with a sun that is going to flare up in a while into a red dwarf, go out, having boiled us alive, on the only planet in its solar system that can support, or I think ever has supported, anything like life. Of the other planets, most of them are either or all of them, I should say, are either much too hot or much too cold. This is just...
You notice that in his statement, Chrstopher Hitchens zoomed in on one issue, Hitler and the Nazis, leaving untouched, indeed unmentioned, the scourges of communism. He didn't not only mention... Hold on, don't jump in, it's my time. This is the atheist conception of fairness. We hug the public square completely to ourselves and drive all the religions out. Look.
You wanted me to stop.
I need about 2 minutes to answer you.
Okay, fine.
Not only did he not mention Stalin, not only did he not mention Mao, he didn't mention Pol Pot, Ceausescu, Fidel Castro, Kim Jong-il. Now, Richard Dawkins in The God Delusion says, well, there's a big difference. The Christians did what they did in the name of religion, but the atheists aren't committing their crimes in the name of atheism. Now, this is what happens when you let a biology major out of the lab. Because here's a guy who knows nothing of history. I wouldn't accuse you of that, Chrstopher. But all you have to do is read Marx. All you have to do is familiarize yourself with communism. It was an explicitly atheist ideology that sought to create a new man and a new utopia, liberated from the shackles of traditional religion and traditional morality. It was no accident, as the Marxists said, they always targeted the churches, they always killed the clergymen and the priests and so on. Now, the case about Hitler is very interesting. You should read Richard Evans' multi-volume History of the Third Reich. In the beginning, Hitler thought, I can make some friends among the Lutherans and the Catholics, and so he invented something called positive Christianity, which was basically Nazi Christianity. He praised Christ basically because he said that Christ was the only one alert to the dangers posed by the Jews. But you only have to read the book to realize that Hitler hated Christianity. He hired people around him who were all atheists. Their explicit goal, the moment they got into power, was to destroy the church, which was seen as doing what? Putting a little bit of a moral bridle on the horrible plans of Nazism. So ultimately, it's not the Christians. Christians ultimately are accountable in some ultimate sense. Atheists are not. And that's why the atheist regimes killed more people in a week than the Inquisition could kill in 3 centuries. And why? Because of the maxim stated by Dostoevsky and the brothers Karamazov, if God is not, everything is permitted.